In terms of understanding what you're defending, right? Defending RPOs is like defending anything else. You got to understand what you're actually defending. So the key for me when I'm looking at defending RPOs is it comes back to matchups. So what you can and can't do always comes back to matchups. If you're a great run stopping team, you can defend RPOs a different way than a team that struggles to stop the run. If you're a great man coverage team, you can defend RPOs in a way that's certainly very different from how everyone else, attempts to stop the run. So I think that's a huge concept. None of these things are going to be cookie cutter, that you can just take and use. Equally, it's going to be all about matchups. Formations and alignment in your system is easily the next biggest thing. The most important thing you can do is understand who's in conflict in your system. Okay. And if you're dealing with a situation where you're not sure who's in conflict, you're not sure how to adjust your defense. So we're going to talk about understanding formations, who's in conflict, and how to adjust that. Where do you want the football to go, right? It's all about option. It's similar to option football. It's different, especially now that things are going vertically down the field. But ultimately, where do you want the football to go? Horizontal versus vertical. I think this is huge in how you're choosing to defend them. Understanding what the offense really wants in a horizontal or a vertical RPO. And then what's the run scheme is kind of last. So you can tweak things based on what the run scheme you're getting. Maybe it's one back power, maybe it's zone, inside zone, outside zone. And ultimately, depending on those, it might change some of your box stuff. But we're going to go through basics of how to handle that tonight. So like I said, I'm taking a look at the chat here. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I was a little rushed at the start. I missed the housekeeping notes. If you can like the video, throw us a comment, ask us a question. It helps more people find it in the algorithm. So the more likes, the more comments, that we get, the more people are going to be able to find the video and the more we can spread, the knowledge and build our platform. And also, if you haven't, check us out, 3Down Dev on Twitter, at 3Down Development on social media, on Instagram. And subscriptions help us huge as well. We're trying to get to 1,000. And I'm sure most of the people who are watching this right now are subscribed, at least live. But if you're not subscribed, it's huge. Also, the more people that like the video, the more people it'll suggest the live stream to. So it's a huge help to us. If you are watching, to throw us a like on the video, throw us a comment. It all helps us out. So priorities. Know who's in conflict, number one. Okay, know who's in conflict. What formations are they running RPOs out of? That's going to be a huge influence on what your plan is. You want to mitigate with tools. So like everything, it's escalations. It's like trying to get a pass rush. It's like anything. You want to have escalation. So you don't want to just have your base defense, right? And then some crazy, if we really need it, we'll use this solution. We want to have built-in solutions within our defense. And we also want to have subtle escalations that build on each other. Especially, I think we're going to see a lot of teams, coming out of 2021 running more RPOs because it's been all the rage offensively, in the last couple of years. You got to defend what they run. So we're going to talk about a lot of variations tonight. You got to defend what they run. And you want to have plans, obviously, to play sound defense, no matter what the offense does. But RPOs are kind of like the option. You can't, as an offensive coordinator, just, show up and say, hey, we've been a horizontal RPO team all year throwing the bubble. And now we're going to get into, full field RPO vertical reads. That's tough to do. And it's really, I think, incumbent on defensive coordinators to understand, okay, this is what they're running. These are the likely things that they could do. But defending all the possibilities is a challenge. You want to have a good plan for what they run, and plan for the possibilities, right? But don't spend time chasing ghosts, and you want to have options, right? So you want to, like I said, you want to kind of build that plan, know who's in conflict, and find ways to either get that person out of conflict, okay, or have tools in your defense where if they are in conflict, you're going to be playing the appropriate coverage to that side of the field, that kind of thing, or you're going to force the ball to get handed off and defend the run a different way. That's kind of critical as you look at this here. So taking a look, first thing I want to do is just define RPOs. Okay, so RPOs can either be horizontal or vertical. They could be full or half field, and you can kind of combine those. Okay, so this would be an example of a horizontal RPO. So we're throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. You see this a lot, especially in the Canadian game. You can throw the slip as well. And I'm watching here in the chat. If you guys have any questions, please throw them in there. That's great. Thanks for the guys that have thrown questions or have thrown comments in there already. Make sure if you're defending horizontal RPOs, you're understanding who's in conflict. right? So the first thing here you look, in this case, they'd be looking at the SAM, all right, and they're going to read the SAM. So they're running a little split zone in the front. Here I got the H back crossing the set. They could do anything. They could block down, run the zone the other way. But the whole point is the conflict defenders to the side of the back, and they're going to try and stretch him horizontally. So they're going to throw this bubble if the SAM plays into the box with that split zone motion. If the SAM stays out, respects the bubble, they're going to run 6-on-6 in the box and feel really good about that run fit. In terms of vertical RPOs, now they're stretching the conflict player vertically. So this is, really common. You got two slants here, really common out of 23, really common to the boundary out of isolation sets. Again, you're going to read the backer to the side of the back. That's a key first thing to understand. You're going to read the backer to the side of the back, okay, and you're going to try and stretch them vertically. So what I mean by that is instead of the traditional old school, vertical stretch on a linebacker where you have an underneath route from one side of the field and a vertical dig route on top of it, now that underneath route has been replaced by the actual zone or whatever the run scheme is. Here I just drew it up. Could be zone power, whatever it is. That linebacker is in conflict between his gap and the vertical route in behind him. Here's the slant. Okay, half field RPOs, there's only an option to throw to one side of the field, or receivers from one side of the formation are only involved in the pass concept. So here they're going to read the boundary end, zone read. We're going to get to that in a sec. And if the quarterback gives it, he gives it. If the end sits, but if the end crashes at all, the quarterback can pull it, and he has the option to throw the ball down the field. But the receivers on the other side of the field are blocking, so that'd be a half field RPO. Okay, and then a full field RPO, where the quarterback, and there's a couple different ways to do this. We're going to get into, a really common concept in Canada, the zone slice, where you got receivers coming from the opposite side of the formation that become involved in the pass route to the side of the run. But here, it's a pre-snap RPO to the field. So if that SAM cheats into the box at all, they can turn and throw the ball there. That could be a bubble as a horizontal pre-snap RPO as well. Okay, so that's going to keep the SAM out of the box. All right, and then they're going to read, if the SAM stays out of the box when the ball snapped, they're going to read the will, and again, get that vertical stretch here with the slant glance route behind him, and his run responsibility being the A or B gap to that side. Okay, so you got full field, half field RPOs, and you got vertical and horizontal RPOs. You're going to defend them all similarly because it's all about conflict, but understanding where the offense wants the ball to go. So, for example, let's go back to here. Let's say this is, 1st and 15 after an offside penalty, and there's less than 2 minutes left in the half. You're probably a little more comfortable with them handing the ball off than giving up the bubble screen into space. So your defensive call, however you're planning for the RPO, should then tell your defense, okay, in that situation, we want to have an escalation that forces them to give the ball, right? Even if we're not in a great run fit, we're able to get to the run fit before the play hurts us. Right. Whereas, 1st and 15, we probably don't want to let them throw the ball out into that bubble in space. For example, here, if we've got, a 2nd and 1, maybe we want to make them throw the ball down the field. Right. Maybe if we really want to play hard up and defend the run, maybe we're more comfortable playing man coverage on the back end. So understanding the horizontal and vertical helps you build your plan and actually make play calls, once you get into the actual situations you're going to be in. And then understanding full and half field is huge because full field RPOs have developed to take advantage of your response to half field RPOs. So just understanding if you're getting that. If you're not getting full field RPOs, then you can defend half field RPOs much more aggressively. If you are getting full field RPOs, you got to understand that in your, menu of plays, you have to have ways to handle that. Because if your solution is, for example, to bring the SAM linebacker here and kick the will out of the run fit, that's a great escalation to half field run or half field RPOs. But if that's your escalation, you got to understand, hey, if they're running full field RPOs, we can try that. If they're able to throw the stick route, we better, if they're able to, we don't want to play man to the field side. We might have to have another opportunity or option there to help us out. So zone read flood is the first type of RPO I want to talk about. This is, in high school, especially in Canada, this is a huge one. So you're just reading the backside end. So if you see here, my cursor's on the quick end there, they're going to block the 5 guys inside the end-man line of scrimmage, read the end-man line of scrimmage. If he shuffles and forces the give, great. But then the O-line's 5 for 5. You got to execute a good shuffle technique, be sound in the box. And if they, that quick gets too far down inside, the quarterback will pull it and then has the opportunity to throw the ball on top. That would be the first kind of basic RPO I think a lot of people see. And then that builds into some other stuff. So zone read slice, this is incredibly common in Canada. If you turn on the CFL, it's super popular. The route concepts can differ, and we'll talk about a few. This is a really common one just with the snag route where they're trying to pick this linebacker or whoever the linebacker tracing with this H-back is, so that now they can get the ball into this flat. They can overload you here to the boundary side. Again, putting this will linebacker theoretically in conflict. We've got 3 routes that end up to this side of the field. If they pull the will out of that pass distribution with the run play, right, you're going to end up a player short. Okay. Same thing. Even if you are able to track, now they're going to pick the track guy. You got to have answers to that. So when we talk about zone read slice, this is what we're talking about. Zone lock is probably the most emerging form of RPO because it lets you throw the ball downfield more. It's much better for vertical RPOs just because the quarterback can stay in the pocket and be reasonably protected. You're blocking both end men on the line of scrimmage. You're blocking the 5 guys who are the biggest threat to the quarterback as opposed to the zone read where you're blocking the defensive end. So ultimately here, this is going to allow the quarterback to now throw the ball down the field. And instead of reading the end, now we're going to read that will linebacker or the linebacker here to the side of the play. So if that linebacker, this should have been the same. If that linebacker inserts into his run fit, you're going to throw the 2-on-2 and you're going to trust the quick game. If this will linebacker, drops underneath, now you're blocking 5 for 5 in the front. That's zone lock. That's probably the one I think teams like defending zone read teams have, started to do some things. I think earlier on, now that this is coming, I haven't seen a ton of, great adjustments. Obviously with the last year, we've been off up here. But this is where I think, people need to start having a plan for how they're going to handle zone lock because it is a different beast with the vertical aspect of the RPO. Okay. So I have a video here. This is a zone lock RPO. So you're going to see, okay, you got the slant route in behind the linebacker. I'll roll that back. Okay, so you see they put the ball in the belly of the back, and this is a good time to touch on formations. So the defense is defending a 41 set, right? This is actually a full field RPO. The field side is horizontal. The boundary side is vertical. And again, any questions, throw them in the chat. I already see some comments in there. If you have any questions, please throw them in because it's way better if, I can address them here to help you guys out. But watching this, okay, it's all about knowing who's in conflict. So here at 41, the Argos run the halfback over. Okay, so now they're 4-on-4 to the field. The quarterback's not worried about throwing this to the field side because they're 4-on-4. They're fine, right? Even with the free safety, they're almost 5-on-4. To the boundary, the first player able to help the boundary corner in this case is the will. So the will is going to be in conflict between his B gap and his hook to curl drop here. Okay, and they're going to they're going to read the ball in the belly of the back. The will is going to step up and they're going to throw the slant glance route in behind it. Right. And the challenge is this is like triple option football, but now instead of the pitch being done behind the line of scrimmage, now it's getting completed 10, 12 yards downfield, can easily turn like this one does here into a 13, 14-yard play. So you'll see it from the tight here. Again, this is a pretty standard defensive structure. Okay, they bring the halfback over, able to read the will, throw the ball in behind. So again, knowing your defensive structure and who's in conflict in different formations is critical, and we're going to touch on that as we go here. So that brings us to full field RPOs, right? That's kind of the 5th type where you're going to have, something holding a field side player and a route concept holding a boundary side player. And ultimately, it's going to force the defense to have a full field plan to defend RPOs. So taking a look here, this is another example of a full field RPO, and we'll get the throw to the front side. Video is a little bit laggy, but you see they're able to throw the bubble, get the ball out into space. Ultimately on first down, it's a 7-8 yard play. So again, taking a look back at this is, same team. It's out of a 41 set. Well, why is the ball getting thrown to the field here? Well, I don't have the tight on here, okay, but this is actually the boundary halfback. So if they tried to RPO the will, there's a second player here that can help on the slant route. You'll actually see, they are running that slant route here in the boundary. Okay. they might have called it off with seeing that look. But ultimately here, they know if they can't RPO the boundary side because there's two defenders there, but they can have that pre-snap to the field, throw the bubble, and ultimately now they commit, an extra defender to the box, and the ball gets out into space. Okay, and then two back glance concept. This isn't something just looking at how much information stuff we have for tonight. I don't think I'm actually going to cover a ton of this, although we will touch on it in terms of different adjustments to this. But this is a good one to talk about who's in conflict. Okay, so we're talking about a downfield glance concept. Again, this is a full field RPO. The glance being this kind of between a post and a slant route. Okay, with a lot of teams have the option to run the out if the defender's inside leverage. Okay, so here you're looking to the field and you're saying, okay, the field side, we're going to run this bubble to force the Sam to stay out of the box. To the boundary side now, we're going to run the slant, okay, the slant glance route or the out route off of the corner. So we just need to RPO the player helping the corner. All right. So in this situation, the free safety is down to the field. The boundary half's in the middle of the field like an HBO look. They're going to read the will linebacker in the boundary because he's the player in conflict between his gap and helping out the corner. If this halfback was on this side of the hash and the free safety was high, now they could flip the back if they wanted and try and read the will read the W on the bubble, or they could just say, hey, they're rotating to the boundary. We can't RPO the will. They've got 3 over 1. Even if we RPO 1, we're going to lose. That matchup having a 2-on-1 still on the boundary guy. Now we can throw the bubble to the field. Absolutely, Coach V. I see your comment on there about pistol. We're going to talk about pistol because it is a huge challenge. And especially in Canada with late motion, guys can go from pistol, to the gun, having the back set really late. So some of, the adjustments from the concept of I'm taking from the American game that I'm seeing in the American game have to do with managing that. Because that is absolutely a challenge. The only plus side, and speaking from an offensive standpoint, running the RPO out of the pistol is a little bit harder. The mesh is a little more complicated. So it takes a little more, onus on the offense to execute. But absolutely, if it ends up in the pistol, if you have a team that's running really efficient RPOs out of the pistol, you need a really, really good plan. And we'll get to pieces of that as we go. So 3x1, 4x1, it's often about looking at where's the boundary halfback. If he's in the boundary, they're going to RPO the field. If he's to the field or the coverage rotates to the field, they're going to RPO the will linebacker. So here's a look. I'm hoping this plays okay. So this is a look at that kind of glance route option. Now here, I would say this is out of a 2-back look. In a Canadian situation where, like Coach V mentioned, you could start in the pistol and really choose what side you want to RPO. With this boundary safety here, I would try and RPO the field, okay? But they give, their X the opportunity to either run the glance or the out. So here they have the out option. So they're going to read the will. Okay, and you can see they're rotating the coverage late. Okay, so this guy's not really helping the X on this glance route. Okay, they read the will steps up. Now, this player has the opportunity to run the slant or the out based on leverage. With inside leverage, he's going to run the out. Easy catch, solid gain.